people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Two-division current reigning unified minimum weight champion Seniesa Estrada posted this to her social media saying surgery was a success, be back soon with two hands. We know that she had to undergo surgery for an injured right hand as a result of the Leonela Paula Yudica fight. Her performance in that fight. I remember immediately afterwards, Seniesa indicated that in the build-up, she actually felt a little bit dehydrated. And in the fight, she hurt her hand. She hurt her right hand and was wondering if she would need to undergo surgery. Apparently, she has. I think this rules out a ring return for what remains of this year. I imagine it will take several weeks for the hand to recuperate. Rules out a unification match with Yokasta Valle for what remains of this year. Yokasta, she's going to be in action very soon on the undercard of William Zepeda versus Mercisto Hesta. Yokasta is going to be in action against the common opponent between her and Seniesa Estrada, Maria Centizzo, who Seniesa knocked out some time ago. It was a violent knockout. Unless I'm mistaken, that was her final fight under the Golden Boy Promotions banner. She subsequently crossed the street to Top Rank, as Top Rank was willing to compensate her fiscally. The story is the people at Top Rank were willing to pay her more money than the people at Golden Boy would. I recently saw a back-and-forth exchange between Seniesa and her old promoter, Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar said, Seniesa, what a loser thing to say. Yokasta Valle has a whole country behind her, and you cannot sell 6 tickets. And by the way, going to a different promoter and still making less money? It's according to Oscar. No, that Oscar, he likes to hold grudges. I mean, any fighter that leaves him, whether you're talking about Canelo Alvarez or Seniesa Estrada, he takes it personal. Seniesa responded to Oscar by saying, nobody cares about her country. You can't even support or care about your own raza, fighters, always beefing with us. What a shame. He's beefing with Ryan. Ryan wants to leave Golden Boy Promotions. He's beefing with him. I wonder if there's any truth to what Oscar is saying, that Seniesa is making less money at Top Rank than what she was making at Golden Boy. Oh. I struggle to believe that I do, because if Golden Boy Promotions were offering Seniesa more money than Top Rank were, she never would have left. The nature of the issue, per reports, the nature of the issue per Seniesa Estrada herself, her own comments, was money. She felt that Golden Boy Promotions weren't giving her enough money, so she got while the getting was good and went over to Top Rank, where she's reportedly making more money. Not according to Oscar. Though, given the nature of this back-and-forth exchange and Oscar's propensity to hold grudges against ex-Golden Boy Promotions fighter, you have to take whatever he says with a grain of salt. The bottom line is, Seniesa Estrada left Golden Boy due to the money. And don't forget that Oscar's promoting Yokasta now, so whose side do you expect him to be on? Yokasta Valle, who was in attendance for Seniesa Estrada's last fight, and told her, you need to fight me in Costa Rica, where I fill stadiums, not theaters.
Spicy!
Yokasta Valle stated, I'm not afraid of you. You have what I want, and I have what you want. Valle told Estrada shortly after the unbeaten strawweight champion's win over Leonela Paula Yudica,
the Palms in Las Vegas.
In order to call yourself the best pound for pound, you have to go through me. They are both very accomplished fighters, Seniesa Estrada and Yokasta Valle. They both are. You know, Yokasta's been a champion at 3 weights. Senesia's been a champion in 2. Currently, they're the only 2 champions at minimum weight, both unified. The fight between them makes sense. Too much sense for the world of boxing. You know, sometimes the fights that make the most sense are the ones that take longest to make, and sometimes they don't happen at all. I am a true champion, insisted Valle. I've won the IBF strawweight title in Spain. I've fought in Germany and here in America. I've been everywhere to win and defend my titles in 3 different weight divisions. You know what? You need to fight me in Costa Rica, where I fill stadiums, not theaters. I really didn't like the offer they made me, but we can make her an offer to come see me in Costa Rica.
Where Yo Costa Valle would have home field advantage?
I don't think Seniesa is going to go for that, which makes this fight quite difficult to make. That in spite of there being only two champions at this weight, they are separated by the politics of boxing.
Given that she just underwent surgery, I anticipate that Seniesa may be out for what remains of this year. Will they pick up where they left off next year?
I'm not sure, because so long as Yo Costa Valle stands on her square and demands that Seniesa fight her in Costa Rica, it's hard to imagine that this fight happens.
We'll see.
Men's middleweight news. Eddie Hearn stated, Eubank versus Benn is an absolute monster. That's why we're looking at Wembley Stadium for the fight. We've heard Eddie's enthusiasm towards doing this thing now that it's a conversation again.
Chris Eubank Jr.'s revenge win over Liam Smith only adds to that fight's luster.
Eubank versus Benn is not as big as Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, but it's not a million miles away. Hearn told 5 Live Boxing, it's an all-British classic, the fight between their fathers. It's the biggest fight for Eubank Jr., and it's the biggest fight for Benn. Hopefully we can get that done for December. We're in talks with Eubank's promoter, Kel Sarland. Earlier this year, 26-year-old Benn was cleared to return to the ring by the National Anti-Doping Panel.
However, that decision has been appealed by UK Anti-Doping and the British Boxing Board of Control.
He's cleared to fight everywhere at the moment. He's not suspended. He's had that suspension lifted. He won his case, Hearn said.
He also hasn't fought in over a year. I'm pretty sure he's going to need a tune-up fight of some kind before he shares the ring with Chris Eubank Jr., one would think.
The British Boxing Board of Control are appealing, and that's expected to be later this year. But as of now, he's free to fight in the UK. He's free to fight in America. He's licensed in America as well. There are discussions about him jumping in on September 30th card in London, but there's also discussions about him fighting in Orlando later on this month on the 23rd. Hearn believes that Benn versus Eubank is much bigger now than it was last year. Eubank Jr. versus Benn is an absolute monster. That's why we're looking at Wembley Stadium, Hearn said.
I agree with him. The controversy only added to the fight's profile. It's only garnered it that much more attention, good or bad.
People are talking, and Eddie Hearn is enthusiastic as a promoter to do that show for obvious reasons. But it seems like Chris Eubank Jr. isn't quite as enthusiastic as Eddie, saying, I'm the A-side. He needs to be fully acquitted, 100% clear to fight.
Sounds like he's dragging his feet a little bit.
With respect to the date, weight, and location, Eubank believes that he's without question the A-side of any negotiation to face Benn. Absolutely, he lost all his privileges when he failed those drug tests a year ago. I'm the A-side. I'm the shot caller in that fight. It will happen. The fight will happen. I can't tell you when it will happen. He still has a lot of issues to smooth out, and I have a lot of options to weigh up, Eubank explained to Sky Sports. That fight with Benn doesn't need to be rushed in anyway. In my opinion, Conor Benn isn't going anywhere. The timing has to be right, and he does need to be fully acquitted of the situation he's in. Time isn't exactly on Chris's side. He's several years older than young Conroy.
It's Conor.
Chris Eubank Jr. is 7 years older than Conor Benn. Chris is 33, whereas Conor's 26.
You drag this out, you delay this thing. Time is on his side, not yours.
He can't have any appeals going on with the board. He can't have any drug agencies having it on a banned list or whatever the case may be. He has to be 100% clear for that fight to go ahead. As far as I'm concerned, at this moment in time, he isn't. So that's why I can't say when the fight will happen, but it will happen.
Chris is weighing up his options, but the Conor Benn fight is the most lucrative fight among them. More lucrative than fighting Liam Smith for a third time, certainly more lucrative than fighting Denzel Bentley.
Even though I really like the idea of that fight, they're both middleweights.
The Conor Benn fight is still bigger, much bigger.
And it's not like Chris Eubank Jr. is interested in fighting for alphabet titles. Did you see what he said about the upcoming Yanibek Alimkhanalai versus Vincenzo Gualtieri unification match? He said, I don't know who they are, so the general public doesn't.
Doesn't seem too keen on fighting the winner of that fight, so while he might have options,
which one interests him? Which one interests him more than the the Conor Benn fight and gets him more money than the Conor Benn fight. Chris Eubank Jr. stated, "The names you mentioned, I genuinely haven't seen these guys fight before, Eubank Jr. and Vincenzo Gualtieri. I don't know who they are, and I'm in the game, so the general public are not going to know who these guys are, which means it's hard for them to tune in if you're making it a pay-per-view event, which a world title fight should be."
But it's not. That fight isn't a pay-per-view here in America, and I don't think it's a pay-per-view in the UK. In fact, most world title fights aren't pay-per-views. So what's he talking about?
It's really not a secret that Chris isn't all that interested in fighting for alphabet titles, and you can make of that what you will.
Simon Jordan called him a charlatan.
Immediately after his revenge win over Liam Smith, he called out Conor Benn, he called out Kell Brook, and he called out an aging Gennady Golovkin that we haven't seen since last year when he lost the rubber match to Canelo.
Simon Jordan called him a charlatan.
You've got to be smart. You've got to build a fight in the right way, and you've got to have it in the right place at the right time. That is up to the promoters. That is their job to fit all that together. It's my job to fight. I do want to fight for a world title, 100%. But the politics that come with all that, it's not easy to navigate sometimes. I'm just blessed to be in a position where I don't have to be in world title fights to be part of huge fights. Most guys, they need belts to be in big fights. That's what makes them box office or makes them worth tuning in for. I don't need a belt to captivate an audience. I do.
You've got your father's last name to thank for that.
I do that with how I speak. I do that with who I am as a man and as a fighter. Now, if we can get both at the same time, that's a dream. A big name and a world title together, it's very hard to pull off, but I'm going to try everything I can to do that. We just have to take out time and plan the best route.
Eubank Jr. has caught wind of these comments, and he's calling bullshit.
He says, "What answer are you waiting for? Do you think he will say that he will fight the winner?"
No.
Chris Eubank Jr. made some mention of navigating through the politics in order to get to an alphabet title, but that's just a lot of bullshit, because if he really wanted to fight Eubank, or the winner of Eubank versus Gualtieri, he could. He's got more marquee value than both, and that's what opens those doors, to have those champions voluntarily defend their titles against you. The truth is,
He doesn't want to fight them because it's too risky. Even though they're champions, he views them as high-risk, low-reward opponents. Why fight them when you can fight a past-it, quasi-retired Kell Brook, or a naturally smaller Conor Benn?
and over the hill, Gennady Golovkin. These are the people that he called out immediately after the Smith fight. The question is, if he himself is saying that he's not about to fight Conor, not right away, but he's not interested in these guys either.
What's he up to? What's he doing?
Most that I could come up with in terms of an explanation, a cohesive one, is that, yeah, he still means to fight Conor Benn. He knows Conor's got some issues to sort out, but he's still at the top of the list in terms of money fights, and he's just making him sweat, flexing some A-side muscle, because he's saying he is the A-side in this thing, and he's not going to go for any catch weights like before.
I think he's making him sweat.
He's acting like the fight's not at the top of his to-do list. It's not a top priority. He's acting like he doesn't need it. Not now.
But you're not interested in Eubank. You're not interested in Gualtieri. You already did what you had to do with Liam.
Connor's the biggest money fight for you out there, and you're only interested in money. So I'd wager that what Chris is really doing is he's just making him sweat.
Leverage tactics.
Finally, yet another snafu for Matchroom involving a major fight. Hearn cautions that Joshua will not wait forever for Wilder fight contract.
I think that Anthony is all but done, holding anything and everything up for a particular opponent or for a particular fight.
We've agreed the money, we've agreed everything, said Hearn to BBC 5 Live Boxing. We're waiting on an official contract, but we won't wait forever. If the negotiations continue to drag out, then Joshua will return to the ring on a date in December, likely outside of the UK.
Where?
I don't know, Monte Carlo, Abu Dhabi. Matchroom's popping up all over the place, so there are plenty of locations he could end up going. He, Anthony Joshua, is just training away, but he wants Wilder.
Added Hearn.
If it can't be made, he wants to stay active. If he fights in December, that'll be 3 fights in 8 months, which is incredible for him.
Staying sharp.
This would literally be the first time since 2019 that Anthony Joshua has boxed more than once in the same calendar year. He's been averaging 1 fight a year for the last 3 or 4 years since then.
He hopes to change that.
People keep saying he should have one more fight and then Wilder, but we don't think so. If it ends up that way, so be it, and nothing would surprise me. If he fights in December, if he fights Deontay Wilder, if he fights Tyson Fury next, nothing would surprise me.
That's boxing.
There is Filip Pergovic and there's Andy Ruiz, but it probably won't take place in this country at Hearn.
Said it before, I'll say it again. I think Filip is focused on getting his crack at the apple, his title shot against Alexander Usyk, leaving Andy Ruiz, who Anthony Joshua is 1-1 with.
I don't mind the idea of a third fight, a tiebreaker between them, though I'd be lying to you if I told you that a Andy Ruiz rubber match is on the same scale as a Wilder fight. It isn't.
It's not.
He's had 2 now on the spin at the O2 Arena, so maybe we go to Madison Square Garden, somewhere in the Middle East. It's just about activity for him and not losing time.
Making plans and focusing on particulars, losing time in doing so, which you don't get back.
Though Eddie Hearn asserts that Anthony Joshua is going to knock out Deontay Wilder, then he's going to knock out Tyson Fury.
Promoter's gonna promote.
You can already hear Eddie Hearn's boo-birds disagreeing with that contention, that Anthony's got what it takes to beat those 2 guys.
Promoter's gonna promote.
I never like to put a time scale on his career, but he did the other day when he said, you know, I won't be boxing in 3 or 5 years' time, so maybe we've got one in December, and maybe we've got a couple of blockbusters next year. And then, who knows? I don't think he's really got a timing on his career, but he wants to fight Wilder, and he wants to fight Fury. Hearn told Talk Sport. I think if he doesn't fight them, he won't be very happy and fulfilled with everybody he fought. Once he fights those 2, he's boxed absolutely everyone in the division, all the players. I am Anthony Joshua's #1 fan. In my head, call me deluded, he's gonna knock out Wilder, he's gonna knock out Fury.
We'll see.
He's going to become the undisputed heavyweight world champion, and then we are all going to sail off into the sunset. Like I said, call me deluded, whatever you want. I don't care what you call me. I see it. We have the vision for that. Let's make it happen.
The issue is not a Team Wilder issue or a Team AJ issue. It's a management issue over there in Saudi Arabia.
Before either faction of fans starts pointing the finger across the aisle, that's what's going on. That's the holdup. The people that were supposed to be bankrolling this show, paying for this fight, it seems they're not the ones in charge anymore.
The people who are in charge, who knows what they want to do.
But Anthony Joshua is a younger fighter than Deontay Wilder. A younger fighter than Tyson Fury. Less wear and tear, less miles on the odometer than the both of those fighters.
So time, at least, is on his side.
Eddie Hearn has stated that Joshua versus Deontay Wilder could still go ahead if the Saudi deal does not come into fruition, but may be pushed back to March or April of next year in Las Vegas or at Wembley. He said AJ might fight in December, and Wilder's eyeing about in November.
Good luck with that.
Let's get it straight. They don't need the Saudis to do this fight, but the appeal of it was the Saudis were willing to pay more for it than anyone else at the time. They can still do the fight independent of Saudi money and Saudi financiers.
They can do it on their own, but the deal structure does change.
Where before, you might have had the Saudis doing separate deals, a separate deal for AJ and a separate deal for Wilder, boatload of cash.
More than anybody else is putting up.
If that situation has changed, they can do the fight independently amongst themselves. See about getting, big site fee from a casino in Las Vegas. On pay-per-view, it still sells.
Yeah.
In an arena, in a stadium, it still puts asses in the seats. It's still a big fight.
But one we might have to wait a little longer for.